Welcome to Politics News Wolf US channel. Russia is literally experiencing the most striking loss of prestige in its history on the territory of Ukraine. The loss of prestige in Putin's authority and the predicament of the Russian army encouraged Russian generals and commanders to revolt and threaten Putin. The biggest impasse of the Russian army is between the Russian FSB and the Russian Army Command, Wagner Mercenary Group, and Kirov's Group. These formations do not have a homogeneous structure as a whole. This situation causes internal conflicts in the Russian army, and even threats and rebellions against the main administration. There had been various disagreements between Kov and the Russian generals in the past days. There are also many disagreements between the Wagner PMC boss Prigozhin, and the Russian generals and the Kremlin administration. After the Wagner Group's recent success on the Ukrainian Eastern Front, Pershing took a more courageous stance towards the Russian generals and the Kremlin administration. However, the Wagner Group achieved partial success on the Eastern Front at a heavy price. Prigozhin lost more than 30,000 soldiers and depleted his ammunition stocks. This troublesome situation brought the Wagner Group and the Moscow administration face to face. The relationship between leader Vladimir Putin and Wagner boss Yevgeny Prigozhin, once described as the perfect couple, has seriously deteriorated after recent scandals on the Ukrainian front lines. The Russian leader's difficulties with the Wagner Group, especially in this critical time period while having difficulties in finding troop resources, hindered the advanced efforts of the Russian army in Ukraine. In fact, Putin doesn't have many allies left to rely on right now. Since China and North Korea cannot send troops to Russia, Vladimir Putin is forced into the Wagner Group in a way. But the strong winds blowing between the Russian Ministry of Defense and the Afghani Prigozhin put to Vladimir Putin in a very difficult situation, even if it's not felt much at the moment. Ukraine's eastern front lines, especially cities like Bakh, Emo, and Sodar, seem to be empty in the coming days. Because Pershing had a serious polemic with Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu about military ammunition. I wonder if Shoigu wanted to render the mercenary group helpless by cutting their ammo stockpile to finish off the Wagner boss, or was Putin indirectly leaving his old friend Prigozhin to die on Ukrainian soil? Let's all witness the tension in this devil triangle between Putin, Shoigu, and Prigozhin. Vladimir Putin relied on the soldiers of different ethnic groups, especially Wagner, to compensate for the loss of soldiers. However, the ropes between the Russian army and the Wagner paramilitary group became more tense with each passing day. Yin, founder of Russia's paramilitary Wagner Group, has escalated his conflict with Russia's military leadership by threatening to withdraw his mercenaries from Bakhmut in eastern Ukraine. Pershing stated that if his fighters do not receive ammunition deliveries from Russia, they will leave the Ukrainian city of Bakhmut, which is in fierce competition. In an interview with Russian military blogger Saman Pov, Prigozhin delivered an ultimatum to Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu on ammunition shortages. Prigozhin stated that they have thousands of mercenaries who they put in coffins and sent home every day. The Wagner leaders said if the ammo gap is not filled, we will have to retreat or die so that we do not run like scared rats. As is known, the paramilitary unit played an important role in the Russian operations in Bakhmut city in eastern Ukraine, which witnessed some of the heaviest clashes in the country since the outbreak of the all-out war in February 2022. However, the Wagner leader, who has recently been short of ammunition, has started to use his role in Bakhmut as a trump card in a clip posted on Twitter by Anton Garko, advisor to the Ukrainian Interior Minister. Persian urged Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu to immediately send ammunition. The Wagner boss stated in the clip that they are patriotic and will go to Bakhmut when they have the last cartridge. However, Prigozhin added that these flares remain for days, not weeks. The Wagner leader has repeatedly made public calls for the supply of ammunition to his mercenaries in Ukraine. Putin, once considered a close ally of Vladimir Putin, publicly scolded the Russian military leaders. In February, the Wagner boss accused Shoigu and General Valerov, who commanded Moscow's forces in Ukraine, of treason and of attempting to destroy the Wagner group due to lack of ammunition. Prigozhin also posted photos of Wagner soldiers killed in Bakhmut, attributing their deaths to a lack of ammunition. Prigozhin claimed in March that after filing the complaint, the Kremlin no longer contacted him. Recent comments by the Wagner leader have fueled Russia's long-standing animosity with regular army leaders over allegations of lack of support for his fighters, and controversy over the reputation of Russian victories in the war. On the other hand, Prigozhin received only 800 of the 4,000 bullets. Wagner has currently requested, according to the Washington, D.C.-based think tank, the Institute for the Study of War, the ISW stated that Wagner actually needed about 80,000 rounds per day. This was the projectile allowance before the apparent efforts of the Russian Ministry of Defense to reduce the influence of Wagner. In another report, U.S. officials state that Ukraine is preparing to launch a counter-attack against Russian forces in May. In the face of great risks, the American and NATO allies supplied Ukraine with extensive artillery and ammunition for the upcoming war. Officials are now expressing hope that supplies will continue. At the same time, 12 Ukrainian combat brigades, each of about 4,000 soldiers, are expected to be ready by mid-May, according to leaked Pentagon documents that offer a clue about Kiev's schedule. According to the documents, the United States and its NATO allies train and supply 9 of these brigades. Ukraine shared a few details of its operation plan with American officials. The operation is likely to take place in the south of the country, including Ukraine's coastline on the Sea of Azov and the coastline near Russia's annexed Crimea. Ukrainian officials have stated that their aim is to break through the Russian defenses and create a widespread collapse in the Russian army. However, U.S. officials assess the attack is unlikely to cause a dramatic shift in momentum in favor of Ukraine. Clashes in Bakhmut and eastern Ukraine in this winter have depleted Kiev's ammo reserves and inflicted heavy losses on some experienced troops. Still, the U.S. military officials say it is possible for the Ukrainian military to surprise them once again. Kiev troops are now armed with European tanks and American armored personnel carriers. The Ukrainian army has new units trained and equipped by American and NATO forces. Ukraine's best chance to make a dramatic show in counterattack will also depend on American, NATO, and Ukrainian intelligence. If the United States and its allies can spot significant weaknesses in Russian defense, Ukraine can exploit them with the speed and protection of tanks and Bradley combat vehicles. While Ukraine is making the necessary preparations for the counteract, Mr. Putin is not sitting idle. US and European officials say Putin is preparing new rounds of mobilization to strengthen the ranks of his army. Some of the leaked Pentagon documents also outline how Wagner, Russia's largest military contractor resumed recruiting from Russian prisons, even as Russia struggles to recruit troops. Some analysts have expressed doubts that Moscow has enough troops to fill the trenches they've built along the front lines. Also, one of the focal points of the US and the West is trying to prevent Russia from finding new sources of weapons. US and NATO officials blocked Russia's domestic production with sanctions and export controls and put diplomatic pressure on countries to reject Russia's demands for weapons. China appears to be dissuaded from providing ammunition or other lethal aid to Russia, at least for the time being. US officials have released intelligence about Beijing's private talks with Moscow and have not seen any evidence since China sent weapons. Similarly, Russia's efforts to acquire guided missiles from Iran have so far not borne fruit. As a result, Ukrainian forces are expected to launch a counter-offensive in May. It's stated that at the ISW Kiev forces are waiting for warmer weather to harden the ground, and that Vladimir Putin is determined to ruin May's military victory celebrations. The cancellation of the Immortal Regimen March to commemorate the Soviet role in defeating Nazi Germany, and the cancellation of other Victory Day events in Russia's Kurs and Belgorod regions on May 9 due to security concerns, raises expectations for what will happen next. Ukraine has largely absorbed and deflected the Russian offensive this spring. The weather is turning for the better, and Ukraine is integrating new talent. We'll have to wait and see how Ukraine's integration of new capabilities will affect the war. Thank you for watching the video. We value your opinion. Please comment, share them with us, and thank you so much once again for watching this video. See you in my next video.